Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion, and again we're talking with Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. Last week the Wildcats dropped the game to Centralia, 28 to 20 was the final score. And coach, after the game, wasn't a very exciting time, I guess is the best way to put it. You've had a chance to look at film, reflect on things. Have you seen anything different from Friday night?
Well, most of the time, and I had one of my younger coaches say this, that most of the time when you play a ball game, it's never as bad as you think, and you get the film in there, and this game was probably worse than we thought. It's one of those rare ball games that I knew was bad when it was happening, but it was even worse when I got the film out. I can't think of a single facet of the game where we played well. I have trouble finding, a lot of positive to come out of it. There were moments, there were plays here and there, but it is overall a really poor performance on both sides of the ball. Special teams game was not very good. For the punt return was great, but we got a punt blocked in the process, during the game, and so it was not a very good night for whatever reason. I think throughout seasons you have nights like this. I remember back in 2010 we were 8-0 and going to Heron, and nothing seemed to go well that night. The team that I'd watched play for 8 consecutive weeks and go undefeated didn't look like that team at all that night against Heron. And Heron, I think, was 4-4 that year and beat us. And so it reminded me of that kind of ball game where you just knew almost from the beginning of the first series that we just weren't there for whatever reason. And it's easy to blame homecoming and other things. I just think sometimes you have those nights where you don't play well. Kids didn't go out and intentionally not play well. It was like a collective letdown and for whatever reason, I guess it's just part of it. I think we played 7 tough games in a row, and I think maybe it caught up with us a little bit. I think we had to push ourselves for 7 weeks. It's no excuse. I just think that's the reality of it sometimes. We just didn't, bring our best game. And credit to Centralia. They played a great football game against us.
Now, and you talk about the series of tough games in a row, and you had played in the last few of those games, you had played extremely well. In particular, they played pretty well against Cahokia, except for a couple stretches. Mount Vernon controlled the ball, so it's hard to tell. You played better than it looked in the first half.
Right.
Second half was really strong. You even played pretty well against Althoff in that game. And just that one stretch there from the fourth quarter where they got a couple of quick scores, that pulled away, made that game a lot different. So you had played several games in a row pretty well. Now, early in the week in practice, how are you getting the kids geared up to bounce back from that and shake that off?
Well, we had to face reality a little bit and talk about the fact that we didn't play well, and that's. You watch the NFL or you watch college football on any given weekend, you're going to find a great football team or a good football team that has a bad day. It happens. You look at the SEC or you look at the Big Ten, you're going to find very good football teams that just for some reason on that given day just didn't play very well. It's part of the game. It's hard to explain because football has so many interchangeable parts, 11 on defense, 11 on offense, special teams each has 11 players, and they're all working together towards a common goal, and it's those parts sometimes get out of whack, and it seems like when you get one part out of whack, it just affects the whole system. I don't know, so we had to come to the reality of that and talk about the fact we didn't play well. Let's don't beat around the bush. We didn't. Coaches are always at fault because the performance of the players falls first and foremost upon them. Second of all, the players have to be accountable. Were they coached to do the things they did? Did they go against the coaching that they were given? And then we have to make some decisions about whether to allow guys to maintain their current starting positions. Do we give other guys a chance who've been paying the price every week in practice? A lot of things we had to talk about over the weekend and on Monday at practice. But the kids came out motivated to start the week, and you don't want that 2-game losing streak to carry over any further. We just got to keep working, get better, show some faith in our players, and faith in the system that we run offensively and defensively, and try to get back on track.
There were, and you talked about plays in particular, but there were some moments in the game where you did some pretty good things. And in particular, I kind of wanted to single out Hunter Milligan, and not necessarily for the punt return, which was kind of a strange play because nobody was back. He went down and grabbed the punt and everything. But there were a couple times where he made tackles in the secondary that saved what could potentially have been scoring plays.
I agree, and that's the kind of player Hunter's been all year. You know, he's quietly had a really good season for us, and he's a tough, smart, dedicated young man, and give me a bunch of those kind, and we'll win a bunch of ball games. I think he's going to have a huge role for us the remainder of this season, plus next year on both sides of the ball. We lost Dylan Simpson to a knee injury, and I think that Hunter will step in and become the starting wide receiver, what most people call a tight end type receiver for us. And I have a lot of confidence that he'll do a great job this year and next. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought Adolph Paulson had a great jailbreak screen as Jaden had another few big plays here and there. And so there were moments you look at the film and you see a throw by Isaac or a scramble, or you see a screen game play that breaks wide open, and there's no consistency. And it was literally series by series there were breakdowns, and we had some penalties, we had some turnovers. It just felt like we were out of sync, and football is very much, especially on my side of the ball, which is offense. Offense is rhythm, and we were really struggling to gain rhythm. And again, a lot of credit goes to Coach Calling and his staff, and they did a lot to take us out of our rhythm, and we didn't respond very well.
One of the things I noticed was that they spent a lot of time in your backfield, not only on pass plays, but on run plays as well. I know Braden had tough yards because he got hit in the backfield quite a bit.
Yeah, they punched us right in the mouth. I mean, there's no doubt. I'd love to tell you that it was something other than the fact that they were more physical than us. They took it to us, and we didn't respond very well. And that's the first time I've seen that. I thought Cahokia really came aggressively after us, as did Galesburg, the Champaign schools early in the year, and of course Althoff did. And we responded pretty well in all those ball games. We did not respond well on Friday. And I don't know, like I said, if it's an accumulation of senior night emotions, and homecoming, and you know, we can make excuses. Bottom line is we just didn't match the physicality that they brought to the game, and we've tended to do that all year long, and we didn't do it Friday, and it cost us a ball game.
I think one of the parts of the inconsistency you talked about too was when Centralia was on offense, and you knew that Williams was going to have the ball. You knew he was going to be doing things with it. And there were times when he'd call his own number or he'd look to pass, and your defense was spot on with their assignments and spot on with where they were supposed to be, and got a couple sacks, stopped him on running plays where he didn't gain anything or lost yardage. And then there were other times where it looked like you had him contained and he was just able to sneak out and make big plays.
Yeah, he's a good football player, going to be a great player. He's just a sophomore, and he made a lot of plays. He did a lot of things with his arms as well as his feet. Again, I thought they brought a physicality on the offensive side to our defense that their defense brought to our offense. And I think, you know, they made more plays. They made enough more plays to win that ball game. We were in it right into the end of the game. I mean, I give our kids credit for that. Even though we didn't play well, we stayed in the game, scoring right before half, and what is a crazy, not even a 2-minute drill, not even a minute drill.
It was a 19.9 second drill.
A 19.9 second drill, which is unheard of. But again, that's something to say, that's pretty awesome. You coach a long time and not have that happen. Score a touchdown in 19.9 seconds to end the half. I know when they scored, I said to myself, it's a good 2-minute drill by Centralia.
Yeah.
Didn't know we had a 19.9 second drill in store for them, but and then late in the game, when a lot of people had left, we've got the ball on the 10-yard line with just a few seconds left, a chance to tie the game. And so I credit our kids for staying in there when things weren't going well and finding a way to keep us in the game and give us a chance to win.
Well, you got to change focus, which you have started doing in practice this week, but Carbondale's up next. And this is one of those games where it would be easy. If you had won the last 2 weeks, it'd be really easy to have a letdown against Carbondale. How much do you think, I mean, they come in, they haven't won a game. now you're looking at trying to snap out of a streak of your own. How much do you think that makes additional motivation for you guys?
Well, certainly our kids have to be humble. There's no, the downside is we've lost a little bit of our swagger that we had going into Althoff. I mean, but we're certainly been humbled. All of us have been. Losing a ball game or two in a row will do that to you. So we're not looking past anybody. I mean, the only thing I told our kids yesterday at practice was that at the 5-minute mark between Althoff and Carbondale, 5 minutes and a half, it's 6-0 Althoff.
Yeah.
Carbondale has that ability athletically to play that well. They have just failed, from what I understand, to consistently do it. So we don't want to be the team that they find that consistency on that night. We have to get back to basics, be more physical, play the kind of football we played the first 5 weeks of the season, and get back on track. I mean, we're not looking past anybody. I've told the kids from the first week of the season, you're good enough to win all 9. You could also lose 7 of them if you don't come to play every Friday night. Our schedule is such that we have to play our football physical every week. We don't have the talent to cruise past anybody. We have played 7 opponents. They've been 7 tough games. I don't care about Carbondale and Rich South's records. They're talented enough to beat us if we don't come to play. The greatest determining factor in how good your opponent is not your opponent, it's you. And if we don't come to play, we're going to struggle on Friday. If we come to play like I know we can, we should hopefully be able to give Carbondale all they want.
One of the things, and I'm sure you've done your homework to know this, one of the things that's been characteristic about the Carbondale games is if they're allowed to hang around early in the game and you let them move the ball and do things with you, they can make it a pretty interesting ball game. If you can get out on them quick and early, they get down, they kind of lose focus, and you can really take care of business.
No,
I mean, you've got that. You've got the history of this team of the slow start, so I'm sure that's one of the things you're focusing on this week.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's plugged us all season long, but yeah, that's the concern, and certainly I've been on where Coach Lee is. I've been in the rebuilding process at 4 different schools, and I know what it's like to get down early and have to keep a team that hasn't been winning a lot of games up. I also know what it's like when you've got a team that's been struggling, starts getting some momentum and starts believing maybe we can. So it's powerful. So it certainly is a big concern of mine as a coach. We've got to get off to a faster start these last 2 weeks.
One of the things that you were very successful in the first 2 conference games was that you didn't give the ball up. You didn't turn it over. Hasn't been the case the last couple of weeks. That's another important thing, because another thing that's kind of plagued Carbondale a little bit at key times has been turnovers. They put the ball on the turf, maybe thrown an interception or 2 that's kept them from keeping momentum.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt turnovers are such a huge factor, and we had, we've prided ourselves on taking care of the ball, and there have been some crucial times the last 2 weeks. And it isn't just the turnovers, sometimes it's when you commit them, and we've made some key turnover mistakes in crucial situations, and against good football teams you can't do that. I mean, you think about the records of our teams. I think Champaign Centennial's probably 6-1, and Althoff 7-0, and Centralia 6-1. And when you play teams like that and you lose to them, you can go back and look at the mistakes you've made, and there's a huge part of that. The outcomes of those ball games are turnover ratio and big plays on special teams, and we've seen that in almost every game we played.
When you talk about Carbondale, of course, Jamon Slaughter is the name that comes to mind. But the history has proven as well. We're talking a lot about history today, which I guess is good for you.
Yeah.
But that they always have a lot of good athletes. So I know Slaughter's going to get his, but you have to watch out for the other people who can cause the damage.
Yeah, talking to coaches who've played them, their first response is they'll tell you, this kid. They've got some kids that can really play, some good athletes that can play. So, but having played Carbondale, this is my 14th time as a head coach against them. I've seen some really good Carbondale teams, and I've seen some Carbondale teams that didn't have very good records. but I've never seen an untalented Carbondale team. So I don't go into this game with any false illusions about their record. I mean, their record is what it is, but that doesn't mean they're not talented. It means Coach Lee just hasn't had the time to get his system in play, and once he does, and that talent gets put in the right direction, they're going to be a real force.
Would you maybe compare them, maybe not as quick, but to similar to Cahokia, a team that has a lot of talent and just hasn't put it all together yet?
And I think Cahokia and Carbondale had a pretty good ball game this year. I think it was a fairly close game for a while, I think. So I think they are similar. Aggressive, athletic, got some playmakers. So yeah, I would say it's similar to a Cahokia team.
We get down close to the end, and I have to ask this question. I know you talked about Dylan Simpson getting hurt. I know Jaden got dinged a little bit at the end of the game against Centralia. What's his status?
Jaden's okay. We'll have Xavier Camrick back for the first time all season long. Suffered most of that period of time out with an ankle injury and hurt it in camp. And for the first time, X is going to play for us. That's exciting to see him back on the field. But we've got some other injuries. We've got, but the big loss right now is losing Dylan, who's played tight end for us and
done a pretty good job.
Done a pretty good job. He's been made some key catches and become a pretty good blocker for us, and he'll be out. And I hate to lose a senior, but he's done a good job for us, and he's worked hard to play in that position. But so hopefully getting Xavier back will make a big difference.
I want to talk about that because everyone knows what he can do offensively with his quickness and his strength and things like that. But the thing we pointed out a lot is that it seems like maybe he's a better player on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, I mean, certainly having gone against him all summer and in the first week or two of camp, I can tell you what a force he was defensively to go against. I mean, it's we were challenged to block him in a lot of key situations. So he can be a force in every phase of our game, even on kickoff returns and things. I mean, he's a player. Now, I'm sure that he's not in the playing shape that a lot of other guys are in, having been through a season. So we know we're not going to get the kind of snaps out of him that you would normally week 8, but we're looking forward to getting him on the field.
Now, here's a strange stat we're going to close with because we're getting ready for the end. The game's coming up. 4-3 this season, 1-3 at home, 3-0 on the road. Yeah. And you're going on the road to play Carbondale.
Yeah, the record at home makes me sick. I mean, we pride ourselves in playing in front of our home crowd, and our student body crowd has been huge, and we have a lot of fans that don't travel. We have a lot to do. We have a fan base that doesn't travel, and I understand that. But to play at home and to lose 3 times, that just tears my heart out, man. That means so much to me to play well at home, and we've always been a good home team. So I don't know the last time we lost 3 games. It must have been probably 2004. But it's a weird thing, right? How good on the road this team has been, and I'm sure it has more to do with the opponents you're playing than it does the location or geography of the game. I would assume it has more to do with that, but I'm looking forward to getting. I hope we can get in the playoffs. I hope we can get a first round win and get another game here to try to get some redemption back. Yeah, because it's been hard. I mean, I love to play here. I love to see our fans come out. We have such a great atmosphere and such great support from our fans. And
well, you kind of got to like your chances. If you get in the playoffs, you probably will be on the road. So you got to kind of like your chances because you've done so well on the road this year.
It's all part of the plan.
Is that what it is?
That's it. No, I don't know. I thought about it a lot over the weekend. I told the kids on Monday at practice, the first thing I said was, losing 3 games at home is really hard to swallow, really hard to handle, because that's just not who we are. But, we'll come out and take these next couple of games one at a time, and hopefully we can get back on the right track.
All right, Friday night at Carbondale at 7 o'clock, right?
Short trip. It's not a home game, but it's pretty close, so we'd love to see you come out and come to Carbondale and support us.
All right. That's Marion head football coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.